This is the 7th video in the series titled Scientist R Stoopid. Scientists are stupid. Scientists will either overlook, they will refuse to accept, or they will refuse to even consider the most obvious and common sense things. Many scientists feel they should not bother talking to anyone who is not a scientist, nor should they bother considering any idea that does not originate with a scientist. Everyone has the right to do what they want. If scientists want to be stupid, that is their choice to make. Except for one problem. The job of the scientist is the public good. According to the creator of this video, the stupidity of scientists is so great that it poses a danger to the public good. This series of videos is dedicated to correcting the stupidity that scientists have told the public to believe. Hopefully, the embarrassment scientists might feel at their stupidity being corrected in front of the entire world will motivate them to open their minds and perhaps motivate them to be more willing to listen to people and ideas they would normally refuse to listen to. With that introduction, the subject of this video can begin. Scientists claim that human beings evolved from a single cell in the ocean. That single cell evolved into a fish, an amphibian, a reptile, a bird, an insect, a mammal, and finally into a human being. This theory was originally invented by a scientist named Charles Darwin and is commonly known as the theory of evolution. Darwin invented the theory of evolution around 1860. That means scientists have had over 100 years to study and refine the theory of evolution and either improve on it or make additions to it. One would think that in more than 100 years of study and refinement, if scientists are as smart as they claim to be, they would have figured out everything there was to know about evolution. After all that time, one would expect scientists to be able to answer basic questions about the process of evolution. For example, according to the theory of evolution, animal hooves are lower on the evolutionary ladder than paws or hands, which means creatures with hooves existed first, then creatures with paws and hands came into existence. A natural question to ask that seems like it would be easy for a scientist to answer would be, exactly how did the process of evolution change hooves into paws or hands? Some scientists might say that genetics was responsible for the changes from hooves into paws and hands. The science of genetics is about objects called genes. Genes are commonly described as objects that contain information on how to build the parts of a living organism. The scientist who supported the genetics explanation would probably say that hooves changed into paws or hands because the genes of the animals changed. They would claim that the building instructions in the genes of the creatures changed and instructed the bodies of the creatures to grow paws or hands instead of hooves. While it may be true that the genes of a creature changed and made the animal grow paws or hands instead of hooves, that response does not answer the question that was asked. The question was, exactly how did hooves change into paws or hands? The creature's genes may have changed and began instructing the body of the creature to begin growing paws and hands instead of hooves, but exactly what were those instructions? How exactly did the body of a creature grow a paw or a hand instead of a hoof? Other scientists might claim that natural selection was responsible for the change from hooves into paws and hands. These scientists would point out the fact that creatures with hooves have a limited ability to interact with their environment. The natural selection scientist would claim that the development of fingers or toes on a creature's hoof was a response to the need of that animal for something that would be more effective in manipulating its environment. It may be true that the need for something that was more effective in manipulating the environment was a motivating factor in the development of paws and hands. Maybe that need was what caused the genes from the previous explanation to change, so they began instructing the body of a creature to grow paws or hands instead of hooves. The natural selection explanation also does not answer the question that was asked. The question was, exactly how did animal hooves change into animal paws or human hands? An explanation for exactly how hooves could turn into paws or hands will be presented next. The simplicity of this explanation and the insight into all life on the planet Earth that it provides can be so shocking to an individual that it can boost them to a higher plane of existence. The reality of what they see can set up a cascade of realization in their mind that can change them into a higher level human being. This picture shows the leg of an animal. This animal walks on the ground with what is called a hoof. Although the leg and hoof of the animal do have a complex shape, they will both be treated as a simple cylinder for the purposes of this video. This picture shows the paw of a chicken. A paw is different from a hoof in that a paw has toes on it, as demonstrated in this comparison picture. This picture shows a human hand. A hand is different from a hoof because a hand has fingers on it. The chicken paw looks like a hoof with toes added to it, and the hand looks like a hoof with fingers added to it. It was previously stated that a hoof could be treated as a cylinder, so the hoof on the paw can be replaced by a cylinder, and the hoof on the hand can also be replaced by a cylinder. There are many different ways that the cylinder that replaces the hoof could be constructed. For the purposes of this video, the cylinder will be treated as if it is constructed out of a spiral. This picture shows a top-down view of a cylinder with a spiral superimposed on it to help visualize how a cylinder constructed out of a spiral would look. What would happen if the end of the spiral that the cylinder is constructed out of was pulled away from the cylinder by a small amount? This picture shows the end of the spiral pulled away from the main body of the cylinder. 4 duplicates of the cylinder with the end of the spiral sticking out are then added to the picture. One of the new cylinders is rotated slightly, then superimposed directly on top of the center cylinder. Then each of the other cylinders are rotated by some amount and superimposed on top of the center cylinder. When the process is finished, the picture shows what looks like one cylinder with 5 projections sticking out from the cylinder at different angles. The cylinder with the 5 projections sticking out of it looks like a rudimentary paw or hand. According to happy theory, this is how the process of evolution changed animal hooves into animal paws and human hands. The spiral that a hoof is constructed out of was manipulated to produce the toes of a paw and the fingers of a hand. The preceding demonstration is not exactly how toes and fingers are created in real life. The toes and fingers being created from a single end of one spiral was done to make the explanation of the basic concept clear. In real life, toes and fingers are actually created by meshing together multiple spirals in a complex pattern that is stunning in its simultaneous simplicity and complexity. According to the creator of this video, every part of every living creature on the planet Earth can be described in terms of multiple spirals meshed together in complex patterns. Since scientists have had over 100 years since the invention of the theory of evolution to thoroughly explore every aspect of the theory of evolution, it seems reasonable to expect that scientists would know all about how the toes and fingers of every living creature on the planet Earth, as well as every other part of every living creature on the planet Earth, are created by combining multiple spirals in complex patterns. A look through the scientific material on the theory of evolution, though, won't reveal anything that specifically talks about how all living creatures on the planet Earth, or the individual parts of all living creatures on the planet Earth, are created from combinations of multiple spirals meshed together in complex patterns. But then scientists are stupid. So who is really surprised that after more than 100 years of study, scientists still haven't figured out something that you just learned in 10 minutes?